The green flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start. So, there's a big crash. Around the outside and he takes the second place.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are joining us here in Slovakia, in Orechová Potoň, just outside Bratislava, Slovakia's capital city, for the round 5 of this year's Formula 4 Central European Zone. We've had 3 rounds in Austria, 1 round in Most, but it's time to go racing here in Slovakia for the penultimate round of the 2025 Championship. And you are joining me right at the starting grid here in Slovakia. The weather has been improving. It's been overcast since the morning, but now the sun is out, so it is great time to go racing here in Slovakia. And behind me, you can see cars forming on the grid, lining up in their grid positions, decided by yesterday's qualifying. We have got a championship fight on our hands. Gino Trapper from Jenza Motorsport leading the championship and enjoying a 54-point lead over his teammate and Czech driver Max Karahan. 54 points, that actually sounds like quite a lot, but you take 25 points for 1 victory and there are still 6 races left in this season. However, the story has already been unraveling this weekend. Of course, with yesterday's qualifying, we have got, and let's keep walking, let's start walking along the grid. We have got Nicolas Cortés on pole position for the first time in this season. Nicolas Cortés in his Jenza Motorsport car lining on pole position, and he will be joined actually by his teammate and the championship leader Gino Trapper on the front row of the grid. Gino making a maybe even a decisive move in the championship battle by this qualifying result, as he is quite high up on the grid. And on contrary, his opponent, Max Karahan, not really very happy after qualifying, as he only managed 8th time. And we're going to have to walk all the way to row number 4 to actually meet him. We've got another Jenza Motorsport car starting row number 2, and that is of course Javier Herrera. Alongside him, in the colors of Mafia Racing, Kirill Kutskov. Kirill Kutskov rejoining the grid, having been a runner-up in last year's title battle. Kirill Kutskov immediately putting his car on row number 2. Mafia Racing actually even fielding 5 cars here this weekend, and we have got, well, nearly 20 cars on the grid. Bennett Gaspar from Zengo Motorsport here, opening row number 3, and alongside him, Hadi Mimasi. Hadi Mimasi with his little Canadian flag on his halo, lining up 6th on the grid, so row number 3. And then we've also got 3 female drivers on the grid, and we are very happy to see that. It is actually Matilda Patz. Very good qualifying for her, the young German driver. She contested a F1 Academy round a couple of months back in Canada, in Montreal, where unfortunately she also had a couple of crashes, but gaining experience and actually improving fast. Matilda Patz on row number 4, P7. And then we are getting to Max Karahan. You can recognize him absolutely easily. Just look at his helmet. You find, well, pretty much all colors there are in the rainbow. And that's Max Karahan. He is facing quite an uphill struggle. He's going to have a long afternoon here. Well, still long morning, and a lot of work in front of him. But as I mentioned, 6 races still in front of us, still 150 points up for grabs. So the championship battle is anything but over. David Gorčica lining up 9th on row number 5, and alongside him in 10th, Simon Schranz, who has already enjoyed a couple of podiums this season. And before we have to leave the grid, we're going to reach row number 6, where I would like to stop for a little bit, because we've got Theodor Borenstein, another Mafia Racing car, P11, opening row number 6. But alongside Theo Borenstein, we have got Nikol Havrda, young Czech/Canadian driver, also contesting the F1 Academy this year. And it is great for her to gain more experience here in Slovakia, because I mentioned that there's been quite a big break in F1 Academy season. It's a all-female sort of Formula 4 style championship running around the entire globe. But honestly speaking, the calendar quite spread out through the year. And Nikol Havrda, she is about to contest another round in 1 week time in Netherlands at Zandvoort. So for her, great moment to get some more experience behind the wheel of a Formula 4 car. Of course, the underlying machinery pretty much the same as in F1 Academy. And with that, we are getting towards the nearly back end of the grid, and that's also where we're going to have to leave to let everybody start the formation lap. So let's get ready for this one, and let's open the racing weekend here in Slovakia in just a couple of minutes. So you are joining us just as the formation lap here in Slovakia is about to begin. And it's the race number 1 out of 3, of course, this weekend, as every weekend in Formula 4, Central European Zone. 19 cars on the grid, actually, so if you have been following the Central European Formula 4 for some time, you know that the grid has been growing steadily, which is, of course, great to see. And we are about to go green here in Slovakia. So Nicolas Cortes, for the first time in his season, on pole position, alongside him Gino Trapper, the championship leader, Javier Herrera and Kirill Kutskov, row number 2, then Bennett Gaspar and Hadi Mimasi in 5th and 6th. Matilda Pats, P7, alongside her Max Karhan, from whom we are definitely expecting an aggressive fight back, because he's got his main opponent Gino Trapper actually all the way up on row number 2. Then we have got David Gorčica and Simon Schranz on row number 5. Theo Borenstein, Nikol Havrda joining together on row number 6. Behind them Michalina Sabaj and Andreas Lobue. That's P13 and P14. P15, that's Nikolai Dirvet and František Němec alongside in 16th place. Stefan Trenesky, P17, Igor Polak in P18, and to top the field in 19th, it is Chiara Henny, another of the female starters. So there we are, 5,922 meters, one of the longer tracks in the calendar. We started the championship with 2 rounds in SlovakiaRing, and then we stayed in Austria and went on to race at the Red Bull Ring. And then it was off to Most, to the Czech Republic. A couple of weeks back. Now here for the second to last championship round in Slovakia before we will be headed off to Brno for the season finale of the 6-strong calendar. That's 18 races in total in 2025. Last year's champion Oscar Wirtz, and it was Kirill Kutskov who actually ended up as runner-up in the 2024 standings and rejoining the field for the weekend here in Slovakia. This is the tight and twisty Sector 2, where it all gets a little bit tangled up before we unravel everything back towards the start and finish straight. So standings after Most, I already mentioned Gino Trappa enjoying a 54-point lead over Max Karhan. Gino Trappa 237 points to his name, and also a quintet of victories this year. That is a very, very strong season record, but also those victories are teamed up with a couple more podium finishes. Gino Trappa was also 5 times second. So a great consistency all through the championship, which is the key to success. Very often Max Karhan 54 points further back, 183 to his name. He had to wait until round number 3 in SlovakiaRing to finally get back to the top step of the podium, as he scored victories in race number 1 and number 2, and then finished on the podium in all 3 races on his home soil in Most. He'll be definitely looking forward to this one and trying to get another victory under his belt. Great drone view for you, just to see the colours on the grid. 3 Yenza Motorsport cars lining up 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and their colleague Max Karhan in 8th place. So you can just about see what kind of work is awaiting him this weekend, and also of course this morning here in Slovakia. And just as everybody lines up on the grid, we will be ready to race. And so there we are, the red lights are on, the red lights are off, and we are underway. Somebody has stalled on the grid, I believe. Yeah, there is one car stranded, but we are racing towards the corner number 1. A big fight between Yenza Motorsport cars. This is a machine number 75 being left on the grid, and we are now tackling the first corner. The pretty fast right-hander, currently without larger issues, fortunately. And it's Nicolas Cortes from pole. Javier Herrera fighting the championship leader and his teammate Gino Trappa for 2nd. Kirill Kutskov trying to see if there is anything up for grabs for him. A little lock-up into 3rd. But it is Javier Herrera actually coming out of top of this battle, and it is actually Gino Trappa who's falling further back, now having to defend 3rd from Kirill Kutskov, but Kutskov is already through. No pressure of a championship fight for Kutskov, so he can just simply enjoy himself. On contrary, Gino Trappa has to be smart. He knows that he doesn't need any overly aggressive moves. He needs the points, he needs the results, and he needs to see his championship gap and advantage over Max Karhan grow rather than shrink. There we are in the tight and twisty sector number 2. Max Karhan, he has been trying to fight his way back through the field, but not been that successful as of now. And there we are, making our way around the final corner. And back onto the start and finish straight with Nicolas Cortes still in the lead from Javier Herrera, Kirill Kutskov in third. Then, oh, I beg your pardon, it's actually Gino Trapper. Gino Trapper leading. That means it was actually Nicolas Cortes starting from pole, dropped down the order. So it makes the helmets a little bit, it's a little bit hard to see sometimes the numbers on the end plates of the wings. So the pole sitter, Nicolas Cortes, dropping a couple of places and currently running fourth. Gino Trapper leading, which then of course is great for his championship hopes. Kirill Kutskov trying to make his way up the order, but this is actually one of the other Mafia Racing cars, number 31. Which incidentally is Kirill Kutskov. There is a fight with Nicolas Cortes, and he managed to get his way back into third. That's why there are 3 cars in front of Kutskov. So it is then again Yenza Motorsport 1, 2, 3 at the moment, with Trapper leading from Herrera and Nicolas Cortes. And according to live timing screen, Hadi Memasi also making progress so far in his race. Climbing to 5th currently from Simon Schranz. Good start from Simon Schranz. Then Max Karhan remaining in 8th, locked in a fight with David Gorčica. Car number 48 with Gino Trapper behind the wheel in the race lead. So 2 laps behind us. Gino Trapper currently also holding the fastest lap of the race so far, which is only logical since he's leading the race and has got open air in front of himself. So Trapper leading from Javier Herrera, Nicolas Cortes back to 3rd from Kirill Kutskov, Hadi Memasi in 5th from Simon Schranz, David Gorčica in 7th, Max Karhan P8, Matilda Pats, she dropped a little bit from her 7th starting position. Matilda Pats currently 9th from Bennett Gaspar. He also didn't have the best of starts and opening laps of the race, dropping down to 10th. Theo Borenstein in 11th, fighting with, well, actually trying to fight through, and only being quarter of a second behind Gaspar. There is a fight, and this is Max Karhan making a move and making progress. David Gorčica dropping a couple of places in the process, with also seemingly Matilda Pats coming through. We then have got Andreas Lebu in 13th from Stefan Treneski, Nikolaj Dirvet Chiara Henny making a couple of places, now up to 16th from Igor Polák, František Němec and Michalina Sabaj. David Gorčica also having to check his rearview mirrors. There is a fight unfolding behind him between Gaspar and Borenstein. Trapper leading, but not really getting away from the rest of the field, still having his teammate Herrera behind by about 0.6 of a second across the line. So Herrera still staying in the potential fight for the race victory. We don't really know what the internal, let's say, team orders are, whether the drivers are absolutely free to race or they have to keep the championship fight on their minds. But usually no such thing is happening in the junior Formulae. And usually the drivers are allowed to fight if, let's say, they want to, and if they've got enough speed to do that, of course. So 8 minutes gone, pretty much. And that is nearly 1/3 of the race behind us. Trapper currently doing everything right in order to extend his championship lead. This is a very, very beneficial situation for him. Max Karhan so far only making 1 place against the start, but so did Trapper. But of course, if you look at the point scheme, you've got 25 points awarded for the race victory. There is Max Karhan in another fight, this time with Simon Schranz. That is for 6th. And Max Karhan trying to make his way around the outside into the first corner, even a 3-way fight. Let's stay in this picture for a little bit, just to decipher what actually happened there. And I believe that Max Karhan is through, and if anything, it also appears that Simon Schranz lost another place to Matilda Pats, so Matilda Pats following through, and Simon Schranz currently coming under lots of pressure from Gorčica, but around the outside, one of the Mafia Racing's car trying to find a way through. Ooh, and we have got David Gorčica with damage, his front wing being dislodged, and definitely not now helping the aerodynamics of the car and also the downforce. So it's going to be a bit harder, or a lot harder, for David Gorčica to actually even find any front grip in the corners. And this, of course, being also potentially dangerous, so potentially also resulting in the black and orange flag, where David Gorčica might be called back into the pits for repairs before the wing comes off and hits anything or anyone. Trapper extending his lead a tiny little bit by about 0.2 of a second. Well, let's say 10.5. Simon Schranz falling further down the field, now behind Gaspar. And it's Borenstein also in the fight. And what was shaping up to be an attempt around the outside is a switchback to the inside line from Borenstein. They are now coming alongside one another onto the start and finish straight. Ooh, that was really aggressive from Simon Schranz, who shut the door on Theo Borenstein. He had to back off a tiny little bit, but he can try again using the slipstream along the start and finish straight. But around the outside, he didn't find enough space and didn't find enough speed and maybe potentially even grip. So staying behind in 10th for the moment. Corner number 2, that is a flat-out right-hander between 2 artificial crests. And now hard braking into 3rd. That's a big outbraking move by Simon Schranz. He was really late on the brakes and very nearly didn't even make the corner, which opens the door for Theo Borenstein yet again in the middle part of the track. But this is another fight. This is a little bit different situation there. We are back in the fight, and it is now Theo Borenstein finally coming through and making up one place to go 9th. Ooh, quite a big lock up into the left-hander. That's definitely not going to help the front left tyre. Trapper again extending his lead by a further 0.2 of a second. Now nearly reaching a full second in the first place as we are approaching the halfway mark of the race. Max Karhan in the meantime up to 6th, but what I was going to say a couple of moments back was that if you look at the point scheme, it is of course 25 points for the race victory, 18 points for second, so just like in Formula 1, which means that if you gain one place from second to first, you're gaining 7 points, whereas if you fight on 8th, 7th, 6th position, then the gains are usually much lower by about, well, you're jumping by 2 points. That's what I was gonna say. Snaking along the start and finish straight. This should be Matilda Parts coming under pressure from Gaspar, fighting for 7th and 8th. Max Karhan trying to find his way through and actually even reduce the gap. To 5th placed Memasi. Also big fight for 7th. Matilda Parts defending from Bennett Kaspar. Simon Schranz coming again under pressure. This time it appears that it's Andreas Lebu. Another of the 5 strong, let's say, field of Mafia racing cars. David Korčica losing a place. We have got Korčica all the way back in the last, having collected the front wing damage. That would have been further up the field. That was Stefan Treneski in the Křenek Motorsport machine. Back in the lead, car number 48. Gino Trapper extending his lead methodically, 10th by 10th. Currently nearly 1.2 seconds ahead of the field, and of course his teammate Javier Herrera. Nicolas Cortés, the erstwhile pole sitter, currently in third, trying to get closer to his teammates, but Gino Trappa setting yet another fastest lap of the race, 2:04.653. And Nicolas Cortés chopped off a couple of tenths of Herrera and getting closer, 1.2 between them now, which means that Herrera will very soon have to start focusing on his rearview mirrors rather than what's ahead on the road, because what's ahead of the road is slowly but steadily disappearing. 1.2 between Herrera and Cortés, which means we potentially have a fight for second on our hands still. Kirill Kutskov, he was trying to make his way up the field and invade the Enza Motorsport territory earlier on, and although he made up a couple of places at the start, he dropped down since and is now back to fourth. Max Karhan currently fifth, so the Czech driver scored another place, let's say, having overtaken Memasi. So Karhan really trying to do whatever he can to work his way up the field. However, it's still a very, very long battle, and with 7 minutes left on the clock, the time is slowly starting to run out. And there aren't that many possibilities left for Karhan. And actually, worse still, by the time he worked his way up to fifth, which has been a great progress, make no mistake, it's currently more than 4 seconds to the next competitor, which of course is Kirill Kutskov, and that is a lot. This is Max Karhan. We have got black and white flag for car number 24 for the track limits, which is the second placed Javier Herrera. So Herrera is gonna have to start watching himself, going too wide on curbs. I presume that it's mostly corner exits here in Slovakia. Rather than cutting corners on the inside, you can gain a lot of time. For example, exiting the first corner. We've also got a black and white flag for car number 23. So both the Enza machines, which are currently running in second and third, are now under spotlight from the officials for exceeding track limits too often. And if that happens again, normally you already get a penalty for that, which would of course cost both of the drivers the podium. Max Karhan 4.5 seconds to fourth placed Kutskov. He's not really getting any closer. Of course, you need to use up quite a lot of the tyre life when you have to fight your way through the field, which he has been doing. And this could potentially be it for his progress in this race. He didn't really help his championship situation with the qualifying, which didn't go according to his plan, unfortunately. And that is then opening the championship fight, or let's say opening the gap in the championship fight in favor of Gino Trappa. Around the final corner we go. Ooh, we've got a lawnmower here. Car number 14, which would be Nikolai Dervet. In the colours of Mafia Racing, running out of road and having a little grass excursion. Dirvet registered on the previous lap in 14th. And there we are, still fighting for second. Herrera and Cortés still not done with this one. With just about 3.5 minutes left on the clock, we've still got a couple of laps in front of us, and Cortés is now diving down the inside, coming for it. The pole sitter gaining back what he lost at the start, and there's contact between the two SEZ Motorsport machines. That is very unfortunate, and the last thing you ever want to do is crash with your teammate. And the more so when both of the cars were running in podium positions. This is a disaster for the Swiss team, because Nicolas Cortés, the qualifying winner, the pole sitter, is now out of this race, currently beached in the gravel trap, and it is questionable, to say the least, whether he'll be able to get himself out of this situation. Safety car comes onto the track, and we've also got a 2 seconds time penalty for his teammate Herrera for exceeding the track limits further, and this is now going to mix up the order quite a lot, because this is Cortés out. That means that we have got Kuckov up to podium places, but with the safety car out, the gaps are disappearing, and that means that the 2 second penalty that Herrera has now received, that's going to penalize him a lot more than under green flag conditions, where it would have been probably not that difficult to actually get a 2 second gap, or if it meant falling down, then maybe by 1 place. But under the safety car, this could be a lot more hurting for the Mexican. So yeah, the two Mexican drivers colliding with one another, and the safety car coming out on the track. And since we only have less than 2 minutes left, this will be it for the racing action here in Slovakia, which means that we will be on the final tour of the nearly 6 kilometer racetrack. Let's see that situation once again. Here, Nicolas Cortés thought that he had it all done, but then exiting the corner, very unfortunate moment, very unfortunate touch, where Javier Herrera, and let's see that from the top view, which is going to help us decipher a little bit more what actually happened. Cortés was cutting back across his countryman, and I'm not really sure whether Herrera did anything very wrong. He was on the inside, and of course he was not alongside Cortés at the moment, but Cortés starting to tighten up the corner once again, having run wide on the apex, but that was a little bit too much for Herrera, who simply didn't have enough grip to tighten up the corner even further still, and both cars simply collided. I believe it was a little bit unfortunate from Cortés, because the corner was just about starting to open up, and then leading to a left-hander right behind that, which means that the corner was still pretty much his, and there was not really anywhere for Herrera to go. So although on the sporting side of things it could rather probably be Herrera in trouble for this, I believe when Cortés looks at it back in the garage, he'll maybe realize, I didn't really have to tighten up that corner this way and this much. Because yes, he was trying to, let's say, force his countryman into slowing down a little bit, and thus securing his second position, but I believe that he was going to have it anyway, and by doing this he simply presented himself to more risk than he necessarily needed, and in the end that resulted in contact, which ended up unfortunately for him, not for his teammate. So now it is Kuckov up to second, actually, because he even benefited from that incident right on track. So Kuckov up to second already, Herrera third. This is also helping Karhan into fourth, and with Herrera's penalty, this is gonna get Karhan up onto the podium. It's a safety car with the lights off. It's gonna get back to the pits, and we are going to go full speed onto the start and finish line, but we shouldn't be able to race anymore. This is probably just for the pictures, so that we do not have the safety car on them. The cars are gonna reach full speed for a moment again, but the order shouldn't change, provided nobody makes a mistake. And there we go. We're going green pretty much. Making our way around the final corner. It is Gino Trappa, the championship leader, scoring a very important victory to open the 5th weekend of 2025. Kirill Kutskov in second from Javier Herrera. Max Karhan 4th on the road. But taking the 2-second penalty into consideration that Javier Herrera has got for exceeding track limits, this will definitely drop the Mexican down the order. It's 2 seconds, which means, ooh la la, that's going to drop him a lot, because you see that the gaps over the line are not really very big. And we have got, well, Javier Herrera 0.594 behind the race winner Gino Trappa, and this is actually going to drop Javier Herrera all the way down to 8th behind Theo Borenstein. This is going to be a very, very costly penalty in combination with the late safety car for Javier Herrera. We also don't know what's going to happen as a result of the incident between Herrera and Nicolas Cortes, because that should definitely end up in the steward's room. So potentially a further penalty still hanging in the air, potentially even over Javier Herrera. And that would be a sporting disaster, of course, because Javier Herrera second on the road, the only driver managing to beat him in the end was well, for a long time it was his teammate Gino Trappa. Then on the road it was Nicolas Cortes before the contact. After the contact, Kirill Kutskov sneaked his way through, and Herrera would have been third on the road, but now he's dropped down the order at least to 8th, and potentially even further still. That means Gino Trappa, well, provided that nothing happens, for example in the post-race scrutineering, he will be a winner for the 6th time in 2025, only cementing his championship position in the lead. Kirill Kutskov on his return to the series up to 2nd, and Max Karhan combining a great catchback with some racing luck, which you also need, and that combination is gonna bring Max Karhan all the way to the podium. Yes, it's gonna be another 10 points that he'll lose in comparison to his teammate and the championship leader Gino Trappa, which now exceedingly looks like Gino Trappa might even wrap up the championship battle here in Slovakia. But as of damage limitation, I think this has been a success for Max Karhan, the race that he just drove. We're going to have Hadi Memasi behind him from Bennett Kaspar. Matilda Pats should be 6th then from Theo Borenstein, theoretically 8th, at least as far as all the penalties that we now know of. Javier Herrera should fall down to 8th from Andreas Lebu and Simon Schranz in 10th. So this was the race start, and it was a great getaway from Gino Trappa. I was also focusing a little bit too much on the fights in the lower positions, but Gino Trappa made a fantastic getaway, immediately got himself into first. It was not Nicolas Cortes from pole position keeping the lead, but actually losing it at the first meters. Gino Trappa having a fantastic start, taking the lead and never really giving it back to anyone. Further fights down the field. Simon Schranz in the end eventually losing a couple of places to come home 10th on the road. But we've also seen a nice comeback from Max Karhan. And this was then the race-defining incident for the final laps a contact between Yenza Motorsport teammates Nicolas Cortés and Javier Herrera. Still a little bit difficult to really untangle who is predominantly to blame. Whether it was Nicolas Cortés shutting the corner a little bit too much, or Javier Herrera understeering into his teammate. Either way, I believe that in the Swiss squad they have a lot to discuss and a lot to deconstruct this afternoon and this evening. But the drivers need to get ready. They still have 2 more races this weekend, both of them tomorrow. And yeah, we'll continue with the program here from Slovakia very soon, but for now it is a very warm goodbye.
The green flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start. So, oh, there's a big crash.